So to start off, we'd like to thank you, the head of the Colorado Conference for Farmers and Ranchers, for asking us back and being more interested in our topic and wanting to learn more about vine dry in the States and its effect eventually globally.
So that being said, we are Cowboy Consulting, located out of Denver, Colorado. We just appreciate that you have understood the importance of the issue that surrounds water in our state of Colorado. With that being said, the issue surrounding water stems to the misuse in our state and how it is being disregarded with the long-term effects of how we're misusing our water. In particular, we're seeing municipalities buying up farmers' water rights and drying the land up and leaving it useless for agricultural purposes in the future. In particular, today we're going to discuss 3 aspects surrounding this issue. We're going to take a look into the future and see what is on the current path that we're taking using our water. We're going to see what we could be facing in the near future. We're going to look at the ethical issues on each party's side, as well as we're going to give you our professional recommendation again, and we're going to provide you with assets of how you can follow this recommendation and how you can implement it. Globally, we're already seeing water shortages and food shortages across the country, across the entire world. In particular, there are 43 countries that are suffering from water shortages on a daily basis. This is about 1 in every 5 countries on Earth. Agricultural water use in the past century has increased by 500%, while the population has quadrupled in the same amount of time. At this rate, we are not going to have enough water or food to sustain our population's needs with the misuse that is happening. Due to this misuse, it is projected by 2025 that approximately 1.8 billion people are going to be living under water scarcity conditions, while approximately 2/3 of all of the world's population is going to be live under water stress conditions. With that being said, if we continue down the path in our state of water misuse and water abuse, we too may be facing repercussions similar to these in the countries that we are seeing around the world. Going back to a global scale, we see Egypt as a global example of the food shortages that they are facing. Due to the lack of agricultural water use and agricultural land use, they're unable to provide the food needed for their citizens, so they are forced to import more than 50% of their food supply. At the rate that we are seeing our farmland lost in our state, we too may be facing the same issue of having to import more food than we produce. With Colorado being such a strong agricultural producing state, if we are unable to sustain the food needs of our population, we may regress to the likes of these countries that we see around the world struggling on a day-to-day basis to meet the needs for their water and for their foods of their citizens. With that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Nina as she discuss the ethical issues surrounding all parties involved.
There's a projected supply and demand shortage of 40% of water in the United States by 2030. So municipal governments are trying to get ahead of this curve by buying as many water rights from agricultural communities as they can to sustain their citizens within their communities. Although this seems like a good idea, they're not thinking of the long-term effects this could have within the states. Farmers, on the other hand, they could be having financial crises by having a bad crop year. So when municipal governments come to them offering them large sums of money for their water rights, they are taking this opportunity to fulfill their financial struggles. When they do this, though, there is a large amount of people that also are struggling because of this. The community as a whole is having an economic downfall because of this. In farming communities, everybody relies on each other. Within the farming community, everybody relies on each other. The stores and the farmers all buy from each other and sell to each other. So when the farmer sells their water rights, the store itself could have to go under because they no longer have business as well. So one thing that farmers could do is to lease their water rights because they might not be aware that that's also an option. So they just immediately go to sell. If farmers were more informed about other options they had, they could do other things besides just sell. By leasing, they could not only still have their water rights, but they could get the capital that they need to sustain their financial problems, but they could keep their community going as well as give water to the cities that need more water for their citizens. On the other hand, municipal governments are coming in and seeing that farmers are having financial struggles and are backing them into corners by offering them large sums of money for their water rights, knowing that they need more money. With the projected growth in Colorado cities being quite high, municipal governments are stockpiling water, knowing that in the near future they're going to need a large amount of water. But they're not quite using that water, and they're not even seeing the land that they're buying these water rights from. They're just buying this water and not seeing it, and not seeing the impact they're having on the land. There's a large amount of land in Colorado that is completely dry. It's not green. They're just not seeing it, and they're not seeing the farmers that they're impacting or the food that's not being produced anymore because there's no water to produce it. Instead, they're buying the water, moving it to the city, and just allowing the land for nothing. So for both the farmers and the cities to work together and have a more beneficial use of the water rights, if they were to work together and lease these water rights, the farmer themselves could help their financial burdens and have capital together, and the city could have the water that they need for their citizens, as well as food still being produced, and the land, which is one of the most important parts, could still have water and still be producing things, and in the long run, the water is still where it needs to be. And next we're going to go to Zane to round this out.
So as we brought up yesterday, there are two solutions that we, Cowboy Consulting, feel are foolproof ethically. The first of these would be conservation easements. Now, conservation easements are essentially written contracts with governments that allow any entity of your land to be protected from being used in a way that you do not see fit. Now, with easements and buy and dry, these would protect your water rights for being shipped to cities and municipalities and still being on the ranch or the farm for daily operational use. Now, one of the downfalls with conservation easements is one of the key motivators for farmers and ranchers is the financial aspect. And so this is why we feel that leasing your water rights is more beneficial ethically and financially. Now, there is still skepticism on both sides. There's a lot of distrust. Governments are worried they're not getting as much water as they're paying for. The citizens are worried they're shipping off too much water than they are getting paid for. And so, Cowboy Consulting, we recommend a third-party mediator, preferably a nonprofit organization. Not only will this nonprofit be the only ones that see the true value of water being pumped out and a value of numbers, they will also be directly responsible for the transaction and exchange of all the money involved. With a third-party mediator, we believe that the distrust will be gone and that leasing in our state, water rights leasing in our state as well as globally will increase. Currently, there are many nonprofit organizations set up to take on this task, as well as privately owned law firms will do the same. In order for us to start tackling food shortages and water shortages on a global scale, we have to start somewhere. And we at Cowboy Consulting, we believe that Colorado could be that start and set the pace that everyone strives to achieve. Leasing your water rights is not only an ethical system for its citizens and its municipalities, but it's a system that, if implemented correctly, could be successful around the globe. Thank you.